Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I'm going to answer a question from Bane Fane, who asks, are you planning to retire from game development? I don't mean quite like, quote, I don't play games anymore, or I don't talk about games anymore, or I don't code for fun anymore, occasionally, unquote. I'm more like, quote, this episode of my life is over and forever, and I have no interest in being a serious part of it, unquote. I just want to know if there's such a thing in game development world that developers stop making games because they did and the interest is now gone, or does age take its toll like, quote, I feel so tired doing this, unquote. Okay, a lot of questions. I thought I had answered these. I have a short little video. It's less than 5 minutes. I made it months ago called Semi-Retirement. I'll link it below. Where I thought I answered those questions, and then I looked at it and I just explained that I was semi-retired, but not why. So I figured I'd answer the why part, but let me be clear on something. One, I still make games. I make my own games. I've shown some of them on here. I'm still kind of playing around with that Star Raiders clone I made, and I'm also playing around with a terrain procedural generation for another idea. None of these will ever get released. I'm just doing it for fun, and I'll talk about that. And then also to make it clear, I'm semi-retired, which means I'm still working. I have 2 contracts right now. A third and a fourth are now on the horizon. Sometimes they take a long time to materialize. But I don't know when I'm going to stop doing that. I could stop doing that next year. I could keep doing it for 5 or 10 years. I don't know. I do it because it's fun. I do it because the projects interest me. I do it because I get along well with the people who are making the projects. So when all those things come together, sure, I'll contract. But it's not something that I'm looking for. It's not something that I feel I need to do. I'm having fun doing it, and that's the difference. So let me talk about why I semi-retired. And I can think of, I kind of sat down and wrote down everything that's going through my head. There's like 5 reasons I can think of. So first, game making is hard. I've mentioned this before. It's hard. It's hard enough making a game. It's even harder running the whole project. And even though, there's a lot of people doing that with me, there's in Outer Worlds, I had a co-game director with Leonard Borarsky. I had a really good producer with Eric DeMilt. There's a lot of people. I had a really good marketing team on that from Private Division. So, actually, I guess they were from Take-Two. But game making it's gone from, and I mentioned this in talking about game making then and now. Game making used to be hard because it was very esoteric. It was very hard to learn how to do it. Now it's hard for a different reason. It's just complex. It's complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. You want to make a game, well, now you got to think about, besides PC, you got to think about consoles. You got to think about other languages. You have to think about what every country in the world has restrictions on. Oh, you're going to release in China? You can't show exposed bone. Oh, you want to be in Germany? You can't show blood. Things like that. And that may have changed. I just remember those are rules I've gone up against before. Oh, you show children? They can't be killed. Either take them out or make them invulnerable. Those kind of rules are just... It makes making games like you have an idea and now they have to be filtered through marketing and government regulations and localization issues. You want to put in a riddle? Oh, does a riddle only make sense in English? We had one of those in Temple where you said you were talking to a miller, and the miller said, can you take this woman flowers? And you mistake it for being flour, like bread flour. That only works in English. That does not work in French or Spanish or any other language. So there's the complexity. Second reason I wanted to move into semi-retirement, you could call it been there, done that. I've been doing this for 42 years. I've not only done a lot of my ideas, I've done a lot of other people's ideas. I've done work in areas I was super passionate about and still am. Like, I love Dungeons and Dragons, but I made a D&D game. I don't need to keep making them. So I kind of feel like, even though I still have passion, even making a new IP isn't enough of a draw anymore. People say to me, well, what would happen if someone came up with you a bag of money? Wouldn't you want to make a game then? Let me remind you, that's already happened multiple times. For Fallout, I was just making a game and I collected a group of like-minded people and no one paid attention to us for a while and we got Fallout. Arcanum literally was Sierra saying, here's a bag of money, make whatever you want. They had no input and no restrictions, and that's where we got Arcanum. Wildstar, when I redid the design, the only restriction I had was reuse the existing art. The Outer Worlds, the only thing we were told for that is, hey, make it Fallout meets Firefly. I mean, that could be a bunch of different things, so we got to do what we wanted. So I've done that, and I've done that a lot. And, I'm now in my 5th decade of working on games. I'm not saying the passion isn't there, but what draws me in, it's just not as much anymore. It's not as much of a draw to make a game for someone else anymore. The bottom line is everybody just wants to make money, and if I'm seen as someone who can make the money, of course they're going to chat me up. But I that's not what interests me anymore. Third reason, I'm getting older. I know, you can't tell. My energy levels are a lot less than they were. I tend to work now about 10 to 20 hours a week. That's enough. The other hours I love spending playing games. Get to play games now a lot. Catching up on movies and TV shows I never saw, doing a little gardening, walking the dog all around the neighborhood. I know my neighbors better now than I ever did at anywhere else I ever lived. And it's nice. It's nice. And getting older, I have some health issues. They're not major, they're minor, but they're chronic. They're not going away. And as I get older, they'll get worse. And I can try to take care of myself better now. One way is getting rid of all that stress and making games. Another way is eating better, cooking more at home. I'm eating low carb. I had to completely learn 2 years ago. I had to learn everything over again about how to cook. When you can't add sugar substitutes are wildly different. Some you can't bake with, some don't dissolve, some don't taste right. And then cutting out wheat flour. Almond flour doesn't work exactly the same way. So I've learned a bunch of stuff. I can make the pumpkin muffins from Stonekeep, though. I can make a low-carb version of that you would swear was exactly what was in that game. So, the fourth reason I'm semi-retired. I kind of want to know what the next generation wants to do. I was inspired by tabletops and older CRPGs. What are the new kids inspired by? I kind of want to see what they want to do. I'm already seeing it. I mean, Vampire Survivors, from my point of view, was made by a young guy who was really inspired by some video games he had played before. Vampire Survivors was awesome. What else do people want to make? What is Fallout, what is Outer Worlds going to inspire the next generation to make? I'm curious. I would like to play those games. If I keep making games, I'm going to make my games. And I kind of want to see what other people are going to make. Now, you can say, well, both can happen. Yeah, but there's only so many projects, so much money. Every time I look at Glassdoor reviews of places I used to work, there was always younger people saying, it's a bunch of, not nepotism, but it's a bunch of like guys who've been in the industry forever. When will I get a chance of making a game? When do I get to be a director? Obsidian's doing a really good job making some of the younger people directors of RPGs, and they're learning how hard that is too. And then the fifth reason, it's not a huge one, but it's there, which is I'd like to have a life that isn't defined by game development. It's a little strange to say that, but like when my dad retired 35 years ago, he was just going to retire and stay at home, and all of his friends were like, no, you can't do that. You should go get a part-time job somewhere, stay active. My dad was very extroverted, saying, hey, you've got to do these things. And people aren't really saying that to me, but I have thought, I've never done anything but game development. It's crossed my mind to go get a retail job. And every time I mention this to somebody, they're like, don't do it. You'll hate it. Don't do it. It's miserable. Customers are horrible. And I'm like, yeah, but I get to find out. They tell me, you don't want to know. Just don't do it. So I've compromised. So I'm working part-time on other people's games, and those will ship and go out. And there's a little bit of me in there. I'm making games for my own enjoyment. So whatever passion, comes over me at the moment, and that's what I love about it. I have so many games. I showed you that Yahtzee-like dice rolling game I made for fighting monsters. I haven't touched that thing in 6 months, but I don't have anybody breathing down my neck saying, hey, we have a milestone to meet on that, or I can't believe we haven't done that. You know what? I'll pick it back up when I feel like it, and I like that. I basically make games for my enjoyment. I'm not going to review them. I will never read a review on them. I'm not going to make reviews of other people's games. I'm going to make games on my own for fun. And if people want me to, I will help them make their games. And for me, that's what I want to do. So that's like the 5 big reasons I'm semi-retired. And also I get to do things like this. If I was working full-time at a company, they'd probably have a lot of say over me making videos every day talking about the game industry. So add that as reason number 6. Anyway, Bane Fane, I hope that answers your question. And this is the last video I'm going to make about being semi-retired.